welcome into a Friday edition of Daily Faceoff Live. We're streaming live over on the Daily Faceoff YouTube, looking for your inbox questions. The show, as always, a presentation of Bet365. Download the app, use the code NATION. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Colby Cohen once again in the co-host chair today, coming to me from a hotel in St. Louis, Colby.
That is correct. I am in the hockey city of St. Louis here for the Frozen Four action going on for the NCAA championships.
We are going to talk about that in a little bit as well. We're also going to be joined by our friend Jeff Paterson from Canucks Army and Rink Wide Vancouver. Going to talk about the Vancouver Canucks officially being eliminated from the playoffs. But let's go from out of the playoffs and start today's show with the top of the Western Conference standings. And it was a big matchup last night between the Winnipeg Jets and the Dallas Stars. And it was Winnipeg coming out with a 4-0 victory, and a relatively significant one when you look at the Western Conference standings. Winnipeg's gap for top spot, not only in the conference, but the division, increases to 6 with just 3 games to go. So I think we can kind of say they've all but locked up the top spot in the conference, Colby. And with that, they're going to get a chance to play either Minnesota or St. Louis instead of the Colorado Avalanche. So a massive win for the Jets to hold on to that 1 seed. And this was our inbox question yesterday, but if you were the Jets, do you think you line up better against the Wild or the Blues?
Well, I don't know if J-Rock is in the chat today, but he's not going to be happy with what I say, because I think if you're the Winnipeg Jets, you'd rather play against the St. Louis Blues. And the big reason for that being Minnesota's getting healthy at the right time. And, you know, Kaprizov is back. Eriksson Ek is back. Those are big difference makers. Eriksson Ek, so good in the playoff type of atmosphere with how detailed his game is and how defensive he can play. He can shut other players down. And then we know Kaprizov, what he can do, right? I mean, this guy is one of the wonders of the National Hockey League. Had he not faced the injury that he faced this year, you know, we're talking about him as an MVP caliber type of player in a caliber type of season. So because of that, Tyler, I think, you know, the St. Louis Blues, while I have so much respect for what Jim Montgomery has done, the way he's flipped the script on this season, I personally left this team for dead even before the season started. I was more wrong about the St. Louis Blues this season, I think, than anything else that I predicted would happen this year. So for that, I owe St. Louis fans and the team an apology. But ultimately, I think if I'm Winnipeg, I'm a lot more comfortable in a series against St. Louis than Minnesota for the reasons mentioned.
Where have you come out on the Winnipeg Jets throughout the season? I was someone who earlier in the year was kind of like, okay, this is maybe just a little bit of a heater. I think my preseason prediction on the Jets was that they would be a wild card team or just outside of the wild card picture. And listen, obviously Connor Hellebuyck being Connor Hellebuyck does a lot, but I mean, you don't get to being where the Jets are at, which is the top spot in the conference and currently the top spot in the entire NHL. You don't get there by just having an elite goaltender. There are other things that this team does well, but are they an authentic threat to go deep?
I mean, look, with the goaltender at the top of his game, absolutely a threat to go deep. One thing that I like and is a good sign for Winnipeg this time of year is their little bit of depth scoring, right? Guys are chipping in. Obviously, Connor gets 2 last night for his 40-goal season, but you get a contribution from Morgan Barron. You get a contribution from Nino Niederreiter. You see the guys that are chipping in with assists. So I think that's always a thing with Winnipeg. Like, do they have enough secondary scoring if they get into a series where maybe Hellebuyck isn't playing as well as we've seen? And you just look at the way that they break the puck out. And I think, you know, one of the reasons that they don't have to defend that much is because how well they get back on pucks and how well they break pucks out. And I think that's always a winning formula, Tyler.
Yeah, one more for you, I guess, before we move on, and it's between Dallas and Colorado, who now appear all but locked up to be a first-round matchup, and it's the Stars who sit 6 points ahead of the Avs. These are two teams that look very different than they did when they've met 3 other times throughout the season, and it's been Colorado coming out ahead in 2 of those 3, but the Avs have basically overhauled half their roster. The Stars have made the really big addition of Mikko Rantanen, then also picked up Mikael Granlund and Cody Ceci. If you were, I'll let you play Bet365, Colby. Who would be your favorite if you had to set the betting line between these two for round 1?
You know what? I'm always going to ride with Colorado. I just don't have the same belief in Dallas. And I look at the way Colorado being built down the middle. They go four deep down the middle. And I also believe the Gabriel Landeskog thing is really a factor. And I think if he gets through this AHL stint and he can continue to be healthy, look, do I expect him to come in and be some crazy contributor? No, I really don't. But I think there's an emotional lift that goes along with this. And here's the other thing. A little BU on BU crime for me here. Jake Ottinger has never been great in the playoffs. He hasn't. He's been good at times, but he's never been a star in the playoffs. And I'm still waiting for Jake Ottinger to be a big number one and win a playoff series for Dallas and stand on his head. You're going to have to do that against Colorado.
Yeah, you're right. He was his first playoff appearance, or his first playoff run, if you want to call it. He was electric against Calgary the year they lost in 7 to the Flames, and Gaudreau scored that OT winner. He had a .954 in that series, but you're right. Last year he got outdueled by Stuart Skinner in the Western Conference Finals. Yeah.
What year was that? Do you remember?
21-22.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I guess this will be his fourth playoff since that, right? So I stand corrected. I do remember that year of him in the playoffs, but it hasn't looked like that since.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Let's do a little rank 'em here, Colby, as we get ready for the NHL playoffs. A few teams are getting some help. You talked about the Blues. They obviously have Jimmy Snuggerud in the top 6, but I want to ask you about a few other guys, and one of them was the breaking news from this morning that Alexander Nishkin is coming to North America. Nikishin, sorry, I should say. He has had a couple of just electric point-producing seasons with St. Petersburg. He's worn the C there the last couple of years, but 55 points in 65 games and 56 points in 67 games. And this year, another 46-point season. He is big. He is 6'4". He maybe doesn't move all that well, although it's something he's taken strides to improve the last couple of years. But he should be an impact piece on Carolina's blue line for this playoff run. But when you look at these sort of three big names, Ryan Leonard, Alexander Nikishin, and Ivan Demidov, if you had to rank them in terms of how big their playoff impacts would be, how would you rank them?
Well, look, Tyler, I don't want to sit here and be a fraud about this. And so I got to tell you, I've watched Ryan Leonard play maybe 75 hockey games in the last couple of years. And I've been ice level with Ryan Leonard. I've called his games. I've gotten to know him. So it's hard for me to sit here and tell you honestly how I feel about these other two players when Demidov, I've seen highlight tapes. And I've talked to Tony D'Angelo, who's come on Morning Cup of Hockey and told us how good this guy is. And the other player, Tyler, I've never seen him play, right? So I don't want to be somebody who reads a few articles and makes a decision about a player. So just based on familiarity, I think Ryan Leonard has all the tools to be an impactful player for the Washington Capitals, especially because he doesn't need to be the focal point, right? He can just sort of find his stride in the third line and maybe somewhere on a power play and work his way into things. Having said that, I'm excited about these other two players. I don't know what is happening and why the KHL is all of a sudden letting players out of their contracts to come over to the NHL. I mean, this is a weird shift between Michkov, Demidov, now Nishkin. Like, what are we missing that the KHL is now just being like, okay, guys, good luck in the National Hockey League? When have we ever seen that in how many years? Kaprizov had to beg, borrow, steal, and bribe to get out of his contract when he was like 26 years old or something over there. Maybe I'm exaggerating slightly, but still, I am a little curious as to why now we're getting all these guys to just friendly come on over.
Yeah, that's fair. Stephen Ellis, you can trust his opinion on these guys. He's in our comment section here, and he says, while he likes Demidov the most, he thinks the other two will be more impactful in the playoffs. I think I'd maybe have Nikishin third just because it's tough to tell how much Carolina's going to trust a defenseman who's just coming over for the first time. And I know he's the oldest of the bunch as well, but Demidov getting top 6 minutes and like power play time in Montreal, again, maybe it's a short-lived playoff run in Montreal and they're done in 5 or 6 games to the Capitals, but I know Habs fans are excited. They were waiting at the airport for him yesterday. I think Demidov can make a really big impact. Also, I am out on camping out at an airport to watch a guy walk out of a terminal. That's crazy.
I saw that and I was just like, oh my God, they're going to scare the poor kid.
Yeah. Okay, a couple more things I want to quickly get to here. First up, the New York Islanders officially eliminated from the playoffs. And listen, a few years ago, this was a team that was going on runs to the conference finals. I think they've lost their shine a little bit. And a lot of people are, and hey, a lot of them are Islanders fans too, are kind of hoping this team will go in the direction of do the little retool on the fly, do a little reset here. And when you look to this summer, they have some draft picks. They got an extra first rounder next year. They have one first rounder this year. They're going to have close to $30 million in cap space this summer as well. Do you think Lou Lamoriello and company are going to be the ones to take their foot off the gas and say, let's do a little reset? Or do you think they're going to spend that money, Colby?
I just can't believe Lou Lamoriello is the guy who's doing it. Honestly, I'm really surprised at that. And yes, sure, they have $30 million in cap space, but Noah Dobson's an RFA. Romanov is an RFA. You go up to the forward position. Siplikov is an RFA. Holmstrom's an RFA. They like him. Gatcombe, he seems to be a guy that they like. And I'm not saying any of these players are going to break the bank. Palmieri is the only UFA that makes significant money that comes off the board on their entire roster, right? Nobody who's a UFA or RFA really makes more than with like the $5 million Kyle Palmieri salary. So I don't understand what they're doing in New York, right? Like they didn't have a massive sell-off. They held on to Palmieri. He's going to walk now probably for nothing. Pajot's got 2 more years at his number. And the biggest issue is you're just anchored right now with Pulock and Pelech have these long-term deals that cost you $11, $12 million. You throw Mayfield, you're up to almost $15 million between 3 players that have just dropped off significantly in the way that they've been able to recover from injuries, and they were quality players. So I think the Islanders need an overhaul, and I think that overhaul starts at the top. And I respect Lou Lamoriello and what he's done in the National Hockey League. I really do, but it is time to turn that place over, start with the front office, move on to the roster, give the fan base something to be excited about.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think they're going to continue to kind of spin their wheels until they reset the front office, put in a group, kind of like what Montreal did, put in a group who can sit there and have the comfortability of being like, okay, we have 4 to 6 years here to kind of really sort this thing out. And then we can do things the right way and become a true cup contender instead of whatever the Islanders are right now. Colby, quickly, before we get to Jeff Paterson, I wanted to talk about a couple of Frozen Four topics with you. It's going to be Western Michigan and Boston University playing for the championship. Also, you are getting a ton of compliments in the YouTube chat about how good you've been on color as well. So I wanted to pass those along. Let me just start.
I have death threats in my inbox from Penn State fans from last night. So they balance each other out. Thank you to the chat.
Let's start with Western Michigan eliminating Denver in a game. Like, am I reading this right? Zeev Buium played like over 50 minutes in that hockey game.
Well, there was one full overtime, and then there was a little bit of a second overtime. Now, granted, Zeev Buium, I mean, he was playing 12, 13 minutes of every period. I mean, the last 10 minutes of the game, he played 8-something minutes. Look, Zeev can just do things at will, and he didn't quite have the dynamic offensive output that he probably wanted to have, but defensively, he's also, when he wants to be, he can eliminate guys, he can skate. I mean, Zeev Buium is going to be a star in the National Hockey League. And here's what I love about him. He's not like Quinn Hughes. He's not like he's got his own version. He's probably somewhere between a Charlie McAvoy type and a Lane Hudson type. Like he fits a different type of mold for an offensive defenseman because he's a thicker guy and he likes confrontation. Like he likes to go head to head with players in a physical way. So he was a treat to cover in this NCAA tournament. I really appreciate his ability when I'm between the benches and I'm right there to watch how he plays and how he gets on his edges. But he's going to help Minnesota in the playoffs. I think he could have the same type of impact that Brock Faber had when he stepped in.
Wow. One more for you on this, and I want to go outside of the players for a moment, but some of the coaches, David Carl, Jay Pandolfo, do you think do you think there's an NHL team out there who can convince and lure one of these big name coaches away from the college ranks? And I word that very specifically because we've always heard that about David Carl. He will only go if it's a perfect kind of fit. He's not just going to leave for any job.
Yeah, I'm going to pour water on the whole Chicago Blackhawks rumors. Like, he's not going to Chicago. And look, I don't know if Jay Pandolfo is offered the Bruins job next week, unless it's a lot of years and a lot of money. I don't think he says yes to it, because his kid just made the NTDP. He's 2 years away from having his son at BU with Carter Meyer, who's Freddie Meyer's son, and they were teammates at BU as well. This second generation of BU players is coming through right now. The program is healthy. He's about to get a huge contract extension and raise where he's going to make $700,000-$800,000 a year and be unfireable for the rest of his life. I think Pat Ferschweiler is the most interesting guy of this group, okay? Because I'm not sure that he gets paid the same type of money that David Carl and Jay Pandolfo make at Western. He was line mates with Keith Jones at Western Michigan. He coached in the NHL as an assistant for the Detroit Red Wings. He's got a big personality and a big presence. And I think all three of those guys will have NHL interviews this summer. Don't be shocked if Pat Ferschweiler ends up behind the bench for the Philadelphia. I'm just saying, don't be shocked. He will be on a short list of candidates for that team. Tell Pat to stop laughing at me.
I was gonna say you're just saying, or you're not saying, you're just saying, right? Like a little wink there, yeah. Colby.
I'm not saying. I'm just saying.
All right, let's get to our big segment for the day. Talk a little Vancouver Canucks. The All 32 is brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers, where you can get a custom ring built and delivered in less than 4 weeks with the Charm Masterpiece program. It all comes with an unbeatable pricing policy. For more information, go to charmdiamondcenters.com. Jeff Paterson from Rinkwide Vancouver and Canucks Army joins us. And J-Pat, listen, it's always an interesting time in Vancouver, but when a team drops basically 20 points in the standings, I don't think it'd be fair to sit and point to one person or one issue as the problem here. So what did go wrong in Vancouver? What's on that short list of the biggest things that plagued this team?
Well, I think now that they have been officially eliminated, you have to look back and just think that Elias Pettersson and JT Miller didn't live up to their end of the bargain. A lot of other things went wrong, injuries and inconsistency. Their home record, you talk about a 20-point drop. They finished the road portion of their schedule last night with a win in Colorado, and their road record year over year, essentially the same. They're 20 points lower at home this season than they were last year. And I just think the many nights of terrible performances on home ice, and if they could put their finger on why they were so bad at home, I'm sure they would have addressed it and fixed it. But it is something that they've got to sort out for next year. But ultimately, when you have warts throughout your lineup, what's the one thing that can help you overcome it? Your star players rising above. And, I was looking at it this morning, guys, and even I had forgotten. I cover this team on a daily basis. On December the 6th, they beat Columbus, and they were 14-7-4. 25 games into the season, they were sitting 10th in the overall standings. They were on a 105-point pace at the 25-game mark, so essentially a third of the way through this schedule. And since then, they have been NHL 500. And obviously that doesn't get you where you want to go over the course of a season, and it hasn't got them where they wanted to go. And so, now they're spinning their wheels. They've got 3 home games remaining. They're playing out the string. They got Minnesota, San Jose, and they'll finish up against Vegas on Wednesday. And then the real soul-searching is going to begin. And it starts with Rick Tocchet needing to sort out his future here. Elias Pettersson has missed the last 9 games with a mystery injury. We're led to believe that it's the wrist again, but unlikely to play again. And if he doesn't, this guy's making $11.6 million. Going to finish with 15 goals and 30 assists, 45-point season for a player that was a 102-point guy 2 years ago. So, look, a lot of the blame has been put at his feet. And he has to accept it. It comes with the territory of being one of the highest paid players in the National Hockey League, but he wasn't alone. And ultimately, if there was one thing that dragged this group down, it was the infighting between these two guys and the fact that neither one of them, Miller or Pettersson, lived up to their expectations. And you heard Jim Rutherford in that explosive interview in the Globe and Mail where he said it leaked into the locker room and essentially sewered the entire season.
Yeah, wow. It has been a literal TV drama series out in Vancouver, which is a shame because the passion in Vancouver is at a high, high level, obviously, at all times from the fan base. But I want to circle back to Rick Tocchet because the Philadelphia Flyers coaching job is going to be open. Everybody's already connected those dots. And I was just talking about Pat Firstweiler to Philadelphia before you came on, J-Pats. But the quotes and the sentiment from Vancouver is we want to lock this guy up. He's our coach. Why hasn't that got done yet? If there's this big time interest, why hasn't Vancouver put an offer in front of him that he obviously can't say no to?
Yeah, and I think that's something that the Vancouver Canucks will have to answer here, and we'll get our chance to talk to Patrick Allvin probably as early as next Thursday when they clean out their lockers, and I would think that that's going to be top of mind. The sense out here is that Rick Tocchet has a self-belief. He's the reigning Jack Adams winner for a few more months at least. And it sounds like he's got a dollar figure in mind that perhaps he has put in front of the Canucks and they haven't matched it. Because if they wanted to lock this thing up and have Rick Tocchet under contract moving forward, you're right. It should have been done by now. And so clearly there's been a hold up. Tocchet, and to his credit, Rick Tocchet has said, look, my sole focus has been on trying to make the playoffs. And so he has sort of skirted around any questions about his future here, and it's understandable. And I think we in the media and the fan base have respected that his job was trying to get the most out of this hockey club. But now that they've got the little E beside their name, when you look at the standings, this becomes the front burner issue for the Vancouver Canucks. So I'm not expecting that he'll get an extension before the season is through, but if it gets 2 weeks beyond the season or a month beyond the season, then something is up, clearly. So where does it go from here? How much are the Canucks willing to pay for a coach? And, Rick Tocchet probably deserves a bump, but it was a little surprising he didn't get the extension coming off the Jack Adams season. But he has coached this year, and a year ago, everything went right. This year, obviously, things have gone sideways for him. As I said, he's got belief. If he was out of work, I think he'd have options here. So if he's put a number in front of the Canucks and they don't like it, then is this just negotiation, or does this thing ultimately, like the season itself, go sideways? So you're right, Colby, never a shortage of drama in season, and it certainly looks like the drama is going to carry over once the games come to an end here in a week's time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's amazing how this franchise has gone from, the Cinderella run season last year that nobody expected, 102 points. I would think Paterson, even in a bad year, should have 70 points. He should have 25 goals in a down year. Let me ask you about the goaltending situation, because that's another big one. What do you do moving forward? Because it seems like it got crowded back there quickly. It seems like they like Kevin Lankinen. Is there a future between Thatcher Demko and the Vancouver Canucks?
1 year left for Thatcher Demko at a relatively team-friendly $5 million price tag. And look, he still has to show that he can get through games on a nightly basis. Like, the injury story is now part of the Thatcher Demko story. And so he has missed time this year with 3 separate injuries. Obviously took him a while to get back through the knee problem that kept him out of the playoffs last year and didn't make his season debut until December the 10th. And then he got back for a couple of weeks, and then there was back spasms. And then the game before the Four Nations break against the Toronto Maple Leafs took himself out of that game with a believed to be a groin issue. At the time, with a 2-week stoppage in the schedule, everybody thought, okay, good time, I suppose, to have a little tweak. He's going to rest up and he'll be ready to go. And of course, I ended up missing 6 more weeks there. So he's going to be 30 in December. And to play the position at this level, you've got to have full trust in your mind that your body can react and do the things that you need it to do. And you just wonder, maybe he just needs an entire offseason here to be able to train and get back to the point where, when he's healthy, we saw it. He was the runner-up to Connor Hellebuyck last season for the Vezina. He is still, there's an elite level goaltender in there if the body is willing. And so, to your question, it is a little crowded in the crease now. They committed to Kevin Lankinen, 5-year deal. He earned the raise. Kevin Lankinen's next start, and there's 3 games to go, I assume he'll get one of them at least, will be his 50th appearance for the Vancouver Canucks, for a guy that signed on the eve of the preseason, and they got 50 games out of him at under $1 million. He has been a terrific story for the Vancouver Canucks. So, I guess you look at reducing Thatcher Demko's workload, Can they work in tandem the way that Linus Ullmark and Jeremy Swayman and others have done in years gone by? I think that's probably the path forward for the Vancouver Canucks. And if Thatcher Demko can regain his form, then it gives the Canucks options of trying to re-sign him or peddle him at some point next season. But look, I don't know what the answer is, and I'm not sure the Vancouver Canucks do. But they believe that when both those guys are healthy, that they have one of the strongest tandems in the National Hockey League. But that comes with the asterisk of, how healthy is Thatcher Demko ever going to be again, and will he be able to get back to the form that he has shown in the last couple of seasons?
Paterson, Demko, Tocchet, Besser. I mean, they're out of the playoffs, but the Canucks are still going to be making headlines here for the next couple of months. Jeff, appreciate your time. Thanks for popping on.
Always fun, guys. Thanks.
Moving along, daily face-off inbox question. Colby, another NCAA question for you here. Isaac Howard, some rumblings that he's going to go back to Michigan State and some talk that he might not sign with the Tampa Bay Lightning. The question from Tommy was, are the Bolts making a mistake not pushing harder to keep Isaac Howard?
Yeah, 100%. Because, we know that their salary cap can get top heavy at times in Tampa Bay when you have all those big dogs. So you need guys who count for $950,000, $970,000 that can come in and help you produce. And I like Isaac Howard. I think he's a good player, very talented, learning how to play away from the puck. And the fact that he's going back to his, for another year, I mean, that leads me to believe he'll never sign with Tampa Bay. And I can't understand what the holdup would be. There's not that many variants in a rookie entry-level contract. There's some A and B bonuses you can fight over, but he is a first-round pick. He is a Final 3 for the Hobie, which means he's one of the best 3 players in college hockey. What else could you ask for from a first-round pick?
Yeah, and again, if you're the Bolts, why are you not sitting here jumping over every possible hurdle to get a guy like that in your lineup? And also, if you're Isaac Howard, I mean, if this is from his perspective, and maybe to give the Bolts some slack, if this is from his perspective, why would you not want to go play with all of that skill in Tampa Bay and live in Tampa Bay?
Listen, it doesn't really make sense either direction. Like I said, some players want to go play for the Chicago Blackhawks because they know they're going to have a long leash to just figure it out in the NHL. But there are these unique circumstances where a top player, because they make less money and what they can do from a production standpoint, a cup level lineup right away and have that opportunity. So, listen, I'm happy. It's good for college. It'll make Michigan State better. It'll make Michigan State's a big brand name school. It's good for us when they're good from TV rating standpoint. So I'm glad that he's coming back. I hope more guys come back.
All right, let's move along to our daily bets for Bet365. Breaking news from Bet365, where every nail-biting overtime win is a barn burner and every suspenseful moment in between is amazing. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary. At Bet365, an official partner of the NHL. Download the Bet365 app. Use the code NATION to get in on the game. Must be 19 plus. Please play responsibly. Couple of picks for tonight in the NHL. If you paid attention to the NHL world on Wednesday, you would know the San Jose Sharks can't keep pucks out of their net, and Connor McDavid is all the way back. So McDavid 2 points. The over between Edmonton, San Jose, and Edmonton on the puck line is a nice plus 225. Also, Joel Eriksson returned to the Wild lineup, scored 4 goals. I'm putting him in my Friday goal scorer parlay along with Cole Caulfield, who has 3 goals in his last 4 games. Those two together, a very nice plus 964. Shout out to our friends over at Bet365, which brings us to garbage time, Colby, and wanted to give some love to our boy Paul Paduti, who had a great tweet about just how good Lane Hutson's rookie season has been. And Paduti does his era adjustment for all these numbers. Not only is he the 7th rookie D-man at age 20 or younger to play 80-plus games in the last decade, but his next point will make him the most productive rookie defenseman ever when you adjust it to era. He is a landslide favorite for the Calder. And, Colby, I'll let you finish on this. I keep teeing you up for the good college stuff. He's not the only Hudson that the hockey world is watching right now.
Well, let me tell you something. Quinn Hudson, and I know you're expecting me to talk about Cole, but the older brother Quinn, after BU plays the national championship on Saturday, he's signing with an NHL team, and he's playing with a Western Conference NHL team. So you're going to see Quinn Hudson get a game or two in the NHL in the coming days. And then Cole Hudson, I mean, that he's doing Lane Hudson-esque things this season. The tear that he's been on, I think Lane Hudson had 49 points as a freshman. Cole has 47, so just needs 2 more. Had an unbelievable assist last night on the game-winning goal by Cole Iserman. Man, these boys are hockey players. Like, whatever they were fed as kids clearly worked very well, because boy, can they play.
Yeah, who you got in the final, Colby?
I got Western Michigan. As you know, look, if you look at our Morning Cup of Hockey bracket challenge, Tyler, which I think, no, you didn't make a bracket for, you breezed me on. We have 237 members from Morning Cup of Hockey who did the bracket challenge. If you look at who sits number 1 atop the standings, it's me. And you know why? Because I only picked 1 game wrong the whole NCAA tournament, and I've got Western beating my alma mater, BU, on Saturday night. And but it should be entertaining. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think I will be. I think Western is the best team here, and I think they're going to win.
That's why you're the expert, Colby. That's why I didn't play along. I was like, you expect me to fill out a bracket, go toe-to-toe with a guy like Colby Cohen who's on the broadcast? There's no way. There's no way.
238 people. Come on, I got lucky. There was a lot of upsets. You know, I picked a lot of upsets right this year. A lot of luck. All
right, Colby, you have a great call on the weekend. Everybody in the YouTube chat, enjoy the hockey this weekend, whether it's NCAA Frozen 4 or NHL. That is a wrap on another week of Daily Faceoff Live. Frank Saravalli back in the chair on Monday. We'll see you then at noon Eastern. What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you're going to want to hit the subscribe button to not miss any of our content, from daily live shows with Frank Saravalli to analysis from former NHLers to exclusive interviews with some of the biggest names in the hockey world on Frankly Speaking. You're going to want to hit that subscribe button and stay up to date with everything going on in the hockey world.